a great career doing that. Things changed when I started getting a little more vocal with my political leanings. I'm just a good old boy from Bakersfield working in San Francisco on radio and TV. They didn't know what to do with me, especially in that ABC building at 900 Front Street, KGO Channel 7, KGO AM 810, and KSFO 560 AM. That's where I was doing the morning show with a guy named Jeff Blasey. And when Disney bought ABC, they fired everybody. Everybody, even phone screeners, producers, engineers, and all the talent all across the country on all the secondary AMs that were doing the hot talk format. That was when they were trying to target a younger audience and get them listening to talk radio because they saw writing on the wall with the licensing fees and so on of music that's gone just absolutely out of control. These music stations, a lot of them can't even afford to play the very music that's attracting you to listen. It's a mess. And it's all as resulting from the death of record companies, basically. So now they're trying to find different ways to sting you and to get more money out of you. This whole royalties thing on music is so baffling to me. I mean, and same with anything with SAG, Screen Actors Guild, and AFTRA, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. Those are two powerful unions in the entertainment business for the performers, for people like me. I used to belong to AFTRA. My fellow talk show hosts on KSFO thought it'd be real funny to vote me to be the shop steward, knowing I was really the only card carrying Republican in the whole dang 3-story building. They just thought that was hilarious. So I'm like, heck yeah, I'll do it. So I was always ruffling feathers at the union, but I don't care because somebody has to speak up about it. Somebody has to speak. Thank you, Lord, for giving people now the courage to say, nope, we've had enough. Let me show you this shirt that I'm wearing for you today. This is the government our founders warned us about. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's how bad it has gotten? What if President Trump had actually been murdered? What if he had been killed on July 13th? What would we be doing right now? What would you be doing right now? If you're like me on the right, you'd realize, wow, this is a huge blow, but we've got to move on. We've got to get another candidate in there. And I mean, I'm not realistic for my nation. I would have mourned the loss of Donald J. Trump because I've never seen a businessman who's given it all up for the love of his country like him. Not in my lifetime. I've never known anyone who has actually done something like that. Closest thing would be Ronald Reagan, who used to be on the left. Actually, talk about Screen Actors Guild. He was the president of SAG in Hollywood. But he woke up. He woke up and he realized this is not sustainable. This is not good. And that was before the whole one world government, new world order. George Stinkin' Bush said that in one of his speeches. It's a new world order. Not George W., the original one, the former CIA head who became VP. And I don't want to go down that rabbit trail. Bring it back to my guest, Courtney Turner, who's got all kinds of great perspectives on all of this that I'm talking about right now. So I want to get to her in just a second. But first, you know what's happened? First of all, the CIA director stepped down, Kimberly Cheadle, cute little Kimberly Cheadle, who was all about making the Secret Service a bastion of DEI crap. Goals to have a certain number of people of color, women, homosexual mafia people in there. I don't call it LGBTQ because I don't let them dictate the language for me. I never let the left do that. Um, that's what she wanted. They were all going to be hires under her watch, under her tutelage. Well, she stepped down this morning after what happened on July 13th. What are we, 7 days out? No, not quite. Sorry. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? She's gone. Biden announced he's not going to run. By the way, he's MIA. Has anyone seen him? Anyone heard from him? Sent out this memo, sent out this tweet. I'm a hero. I am much loved by the world. So I'm not going to run for president again. After saying, I'm strong, I'm resilient, I'm this, I'm that, watch me. Remember, that was his favorite little term. Whenever anyone asked him about his cognitive decline or his advanced age, watch me. We watched you, buddy. We watched you. And now you're out. You should be out as president. I've been saying all along that he's hanging on as long as he did because he wanted them to take him out with that 25th Amendment. Because then he would have a defense to say, I can't stand trial. I'm not mentally competent. I'm sorry. Because there's charges coming against that man. And I hope that they don't back down from that. When, God willing, Donald Trump becomes our president again. But in the meantime, she's rallied enough delegates. Kamala Harris, is going to be the presumptive nominee. The Democrat National Convention is coming up. It's Democrat, not Democratic. Democratic is a form of government. Democrat are the people who worship it. So please stop saying Democratic. I hear that all the time in the media. It just drives me crazy. Democratic National Convention. It's not. It's the Democrat National Convention where a bunch of Democrats get together and talk about just how brilliant they are and how stupid we are. Well, presumptively, Kamala Harris has enough delegates now, and they've raised like $100 million. People coming out of the woodwork and all these second-class celebrities all endorsing her and sending in a whole bunch of money. $100 million they've raised. And that was as of just a couple of days ago. So do you know Panihi? She's on Sky News. She does this little segment all the time called Lefties Losing It. I love this, what she put together about Kamala Harris.
Before we get to the real Kamala, let's have a look at Veep. And this scene is a case of life imitating art.
She's talking about Veep, the TV show. I never actually watched it, but watch this comparison.
I'm not leaving. POTUS is leaving. He's not going to run for a second term. I'm going to run.
Oh, yes! Wow. I did not see that coming.
Lena Meyer, she did with fire.
Boom! Let's go to that moon!
I was this close to living on my boat.
And this mashup of Veep Selena Myers and Veep Kamala Harris is, it's lefties losing it gold.
Words have many meanings, and sometimes instead of conveying our meaning, they can suggest other meanings.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community.
Well, we are the United States of America because we are united. And we are states.
The significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Whatever we have in store cannot be known. The past was once the future. The future is, I should say, unknown.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Obesity is a serious disease, and it needs to be taken seriously.
Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right, and that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
Now to more Kamala. Remember when she was finally asked about her failures as the border czar?
We are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't.
I, by the way, know Lester Holt. He used to, he started his career in where I am now, in Northern California, Sacramento area. This is the NBC Nightly News anchor, Lester Holt. The only time I've ever actually been kind of proud of him when he did this.
I haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
Do you remember that at all?
We are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
And don't ever have Kamala try to explain international conflicts.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
All right, class, that's the lunch bell. See you in an hour.
It's wrong, yes it is. And by the way, she was speaking to adults there. It wasn't some discussion with fourth graders. Here is Kamala talking to some young'uns.
You guys are gonna see. You're gonna literally see the craters on the moon with your own eyes. Oh my goodness. With your own eyes, I'm telling you.
Poor kids. At least she didn't tell them her, I don't know, pronouns.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit. And
if you're wondering why she's never won a presidential primary, well, here's a reminder.
Vice President have a point there?
Some things you can, many things you can't.
Let's let the senator answer.
Well, I mean, I would just say, hey, Joe, instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
Yeah, let's.
Let's be constitutional. We got a constitution.
And yes, we can, because he reminds me of that guy in The Wizard of Oz. You know, when you pull back the curtain, it's a really small dude.
Small booth.
And
small booth. And they're laughing. Small booth. He's in a small booth.
Who can forget this golden moment when Tulsi Gabbard demolished Kamala and her rotten record?
Brilliant.
Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
She's so likable, so relatable, so down with the kids.
And as always, Wakanda forever.
Right.
Paid for by Kamala Harris.
Look, she really is down with the kids. She's out there on those streets, child.
Our basic freedoms are being tested, Madam VP. I know you've been traveling across the country. What are you hearing?
yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets. And let me tell you, you're right, Taraji. There is so much at stake in this moment. The majority of us believe in freedom.
Everything she does is a Hollywood production. You notice that? I mean, it is carefully crafted to try and make her look better and smarter than she actually is. And if they have their way, she's going to be president of the United States, as elected by the majority of cheating Americans. Oh, by the way, what are they going to do with all those ballots that they already pre-filled out to cheat in the election? The 100 million or so ballots, I'd imagine, that they already pre-printed with Joe Biden's name on it. Courtney Turner's coming up next here on Do Not Talk, and I'm looking forward to you meeting her and getting to know her at the same time that I do. Hit it.
Yep, here he comes. Riding his trusted steed through the Sierra foothills as he brings you the news. He calls himself
Charlie! What you doing, Charlie?
Sorry, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. There you are. Look how cute you are. Yeah!
Hey, Charlie. What's with the dark glasses?
And now, here he is, a man of God, living in a world of Disney.
Ow, Charlie!
Charlie Simons.
Charlie bit me.
Brought to you by our great friends at mypillow.com/Lee. That's my middle name, Lee. And that, as a promo code, can get you up to 75% off. Not all, some My Pillow items. I don't want to over-promise. I like to under-promise and over-deliver. So I can tell you this. You're going to find over 100 products now at his online store, his being Mike Lindell, a true American hero, who had all of his products taken off the shelves by all the big major box stores, including Walmart. That was the last one and the last straw for me. Screw you, Walmart! I don't set foot in you anymore. I don't need you. I find places like freedomswitchusa.com/Lee. That's freedomswitchusa.com/Lee. American-made products out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. Go to that website. Please look it up. Watch that little video from my friend Ron Lyons, explains how it all works, and get on board. Buying American-made products. That's just the health supplement stuff that I take. I get all the cleaning supplies and everything else there at freedomswitchusa.com/Lee. Or also, should say, not instead of, but also mypillow.com/Lee. mypillow.com/Lee. Support Mike Lindell and fire the big corporations. We don't need them. We don't need them anymore. Get on board. And get on board with Rumble too, would you please? Get an account there. Forget YouTube. Fire YouTube. And it's worse. I knew it was coming though. Since it's an election year, censorship's got to be insane. Like, for example, my new friend here, ladies and gentlemen, for your dining and dancing pleasure, it is Courtney Turner. You've been kicked off YouTube, haven't you, sister?
Yeah, four times.
Well, yeah, I know.
Who's counting?
We're as a matter of fact, just for fun, I went ahead and we're live on my channel, Charlie Simons.
Yeah.
On YouTube, just for the fun of it, because I'm looking forward to seeing how long it takes to kick it off. But I became familiar with you. We have some mutual friends, and you're part of a thread of conservative folks who are sharing information with each other and events and so on. And that's how I became familiar with you.
Yeah.
But tell me about what you do on your show.
So I'll give you a little bit of the backstory of how I started. I'm kind of new to the party. I always make the joke that, it took me forever to find the train station, and then I found the high-speed rail, and I've been scrambling to catch up ever since. So that's kind of where I feel like I'm at currently. But I found myself immersed in this world, really through COVID. That was kind of what happened to me. So I was not like what you would call super awake prior to that. But I'm hearing impaired, and I have a kind of a unique birth story. I was born with several kind of physical challenges. I'm blind in one eye. I am bilaterally hearing impaired. I actually learned how to speak by reading lips. I didn't get hearing aids till I was almost 6 years old. I was born with hypotonic limbs, fine graphic motor impairment. I had heart surgery when I was a year old, stunted growth, all sorts of complications. They told my mom the best she could hope was to find a nice institution for me to spend my life. Fortunately, she did not think that was true, and went to bat for me and went searching for ways to help me, deal with the challenges that I did have. So, but when I was faced with everybody wearing masks, I was living in Santa Monica, California.
Oh man.
And everybody was locked down and wearing masks, and I found myself completely isolated, really depressed. And I didn't realize how much I still depended on the nonverbal cues and lip reading for communication until all the coping mechanisms I had spent my life developing were then stripped from me by a face diaper. So I found myself I really, I don't want to, belabor the point, but I mean, I was really depressed. People don't understand how, I think people do have a better sense of it now, but what not being able to see faces and have, communication does to people. I think it's, one of the most important components of our health is really our social interaction. We're social creatures. And, with the relationships, not just having any social interaction, but I found myself, very isolated, and I spent a lot of time reading, and I was fired from the 2 gyms I was working at the time. I was also doing aerial acrobatic performances, and I would do speeches they were motivational speeches centered around like my birth story, and I would talk about movement as a metaphor for life, and I would talk about using physical training to help overcome other areas of adversity in other areas of your life, and I use my birth story as a testament to that. But I would do the performances as a example to show people what's possible when no one thought it was. And of course, all of those events were then canceled. So I found myself with a lot of time on my hands, and I started reading a lot. And then I started sharing some of my thoughts on social media. I really didn't think I was being controversial at the time. However, I've since learned you can post an orange on social media, and people will say, no, it's not really an orange. It's a grapefruit. It's an apple, whatever. People will find anything to argue about,
It's AI.
especially.
It's an AI orange.
Right. It's, now that's entirely possible. But
Mm.
I found myself in the midst of a lot of argumentation and controversy, and people started suggesting that I start a podcast. I knew nothing about podcasts. I had never listened to podcasts. I really had no idea what they were. And, the joke that I make is that people, when they heard my birth story, they were like, yeah, like you should be on Rogan. And I'm like, what's a Rogan? And why should I be on a Rogan? For the record, I know who Joe Rogan is, and I understand why they said that now. But at the time, I really, I was clueless. So I started listening to Rogan, listening to, the intellectual dark web. I started kind of going down various rabbit holes, and mostly just looking for people to keep me company because I wasn't able to have conversations face to face. And then it dawned on me that I could start a podcast just as a way to have naked face conversations, and that might save my life. So I made a commitment to 6 months of recordings, and I told everybody who I had invited that I might not air them, that it was really just an exercise to see, if this was something I wanted to pursue and get a little experience, and and also just to be able to have the conversations. And if they could do it in person, all the better. But even if it was through some sort of a digital interface, having a naked face discussion where I could see facial expressions, read people's lips, would really be very meaningful for me. So I did, and I really loved it. The people I was conversing with seemed to really enjoy it, and so I tested out. I started airing some of the episodes, and here we are, years later, and I think I have over 500 videos on my channel. I've started a couple of offshoot shows, but I really started out as probably what you would call kind of the establishment normie Republican. I had very much the mindset, can we just get the right people in office and we could fix this whole mess? And I'm not advocating that, we shouldn't get the right people in office. That's
Right.
not what I'm saying.
That's
But
just one. That's just one step.
Well, what I started to realize was, wow, the right is really behaving like controlled opposition for the left. And then I started to realize a few more months later, wait, no, they were created to be controlled opposition for the left. And that's when it really shifted my whole perspective and paradigm. And I started to go very deep down the rabbit hole. So
I'll tell
that's,
you what, that is absolutely the case with the California GOP.
yeah,
I just
know.
posted a show yesterday with Rudy Rosselli, Mitch Clemens, and John Paul White, who is a conservative coalition who are really going after the California Republican Party. Now, I'm a member. Not only that, I'm a delegate, so I go to these conventions, and I've been appalled by what I've seen. I've only been to 3 now. I've just been a delegate for a couple of years, but it's insane. And all this stuff that you're talking about right now, before that, I would have gone, okay, right, whatever. They're taking money to promote the other side. But you know what? Some are taking money to promote the other side. This is controlled opposition. I'm seeing it happen.
You see it firsthand. It's until you do, it's kind of hard to really believe it. But George Washington warned us of this, right? His farewell speech, he talked about how we should not have political parties, and that particularly a 2-party system would be, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially it would be a loophole for foreign entanglements and for, entities within to subvert. From within. And I think that's really what we're witnessing, unfortunately, for way too long now. Now it's just very much coming to the surface.
Donald Trump, to me, is the coalition, is the pinnacle of what started with the Tea Party movement even 15 years ago, because it's either if we're going to have to work with a 2-party system, you're either going to fix the Republican Party and get them in line.
It needs to be taken over. I think we should subvert it with true constitutionalists to restore the Constitution. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's what I think. But
Which he did with the Supreme Court justices that he appointed, and they've turned out to be just extraordinary. And
I
you
don't
don't think
think
so?
so. No, I really don't. I'm very happy with some of the recent decisions. The Chevron, particularly that one, that was the whole Administrative Procedures Act of 1946. In my opinion, was blatantly unconstitutional. Never should have passed. That should be repealed. But I think the Chevron is a a great move in that direction. So. Unfortunately, I think his pick, J.D. Vance, is a big proponent of the administrative state. And so that's a little bit concerning. But so I think, they've done some good things. They've done some not so great things. But ultimately, I feel like our entire system has become so corrupted, so politicized, and so that is very concerning. Moreover, just the way that the apparatus are being used, if you look at the three branches of government and how they were designed, they were supposed to be checks and balances, and the executive branch was actually supposed to have very little power, and the judicial branch was supposed to interpret the Constitution. They were not supposed to legislate from the bench, and
What is?
unfortunately, they have become.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Marbury
But-
versus Madison. That one should go.
oh yeah. Oh, what do you? I mean, constitutionally, what is the job of the federal government as spelled out by our founders?
I mean, it's supposed to be a protectorate. That's
That's it.
basically,
That's it.
yeah.
Protect them, make sure they can have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Period. Maintain the military, make sure that the country's safe and it's a sovereign nation
Yep. Exactly.
with borders and not
I'm not
anybody
seeing
just
a
coming
whole
in
lot
like
of
crazy.
evidence of that.
The landscape when this whole thing with all the illegals being allowed in, I knew back in when Obama was president, and he's calling them dreamers. And I'm going, oh, shut up. They can be dreamers legally, like everyone else has had to do. This is an insult to all the people who have immigrated here legally. A horrible insult.
I
But
was just looking at the replacement migration document from the UN. That's all the way back in 2000. But the irony is they say that we have to deal with the declining population because we have an aging population. We have a reduction in birth rates, and so we need to bolster the labor. Population by all of these migrants. And I'm like, really? Oh, so now we're not overpopulated? I thought we were overpopulated. We need to
right. Yeah, I thought we were exactly such hypocrisy. And the whole thing about, they're not undocumented workers. They're undocumented Democrats. They know most of them are coming in from socialist and even communist countries. And they're not all Central America and South America. They're coming in from all over the world. And none of them seem to have any kind of good intentions for our United States of America as we know it. We are in for talk about your October surprise. What do you think is coming that's going to prevent the election from happening? Because at this point, that's the last card they have to draw. They tried to kill the man, didn't work.
Oh, I think they really want to. I think they're already trying to instigate some sort of civil war. I mean, certainly some sort of global war. They've been really trying for that for quite a while. But it does seem like.
If you have a lot of people who are not from here, don't have loyalties to here, and couldn't care less about here other than all the freebies they're getting, how are those people who are already here by some saying 20 million now just in 3.5 years?
Crazy. Yeah.
And the media has been covering it up. We don't know about the destruction of the cities that's going on. So much of it we don't even know, from goofballs like Lester Holt, NBC Nightly News. We don't know what's really about to happen. But what's going to happen,
we also
Courtney,
do know that they're also doing simulations for bird flu in late August and I think early September. Kind of reminiscent of like Event 201 that happened right before they, announced.
Of course, and keep them locked down and make them vote by mail because it's easier to cheat that way.
And then roll out. They're already talking about bird flu vaccines, so they're gaming for that kind of a. I don't know if they'll use that. Typically they do multiple scenarios that they war game. This is like the Operation Lockstep document. This was scenarios from a technological future. This was the Johns Hopkins in partnership partnership with the Rockefeller Foundation and a few others. That document, Operation Lockstep, was page 16 to 26 of that document, but it was over a 100-page document. They had several other scenarios, three other scenarios, and that's typically what they do. A lot of these futurists, they write out various scenarios, and then I think they beta test elements of each, and then when they roll out the plan, it's not exactly one of the scenarios. They do take elements, I think, of all of that they've gamed out, but they stick to, you know, the one that they think is going to be the most successful and that people will get on board. So,
what do you think is going to happen when these 20 million illegals who have flooded in and the money runs out and they don't get the freebies anymore? They don't have the free hotels, and they don't have the free places to stay, and they're not getting the EBT card. They're not getting the Social Security money that we all work for. They're getting just because they walked over a border illegally. What do you think is going to happen when all those freebies are taken away?
I think it's misleading to suggest that everybody who's coming over is coming for the freebies. There are a lot of them that are coming over that have a lot of money, actually. There are, and they're a big problem too, because they're buying their way into things that are, not so good.
Buying
So
property, buying farmland, is buy military bases, China. And you're right. You're right. Good point.
There's that, and then they buy off, various things. That some of them are involved in some, seedy operations. So it's not just. My point is just that it's not just people who are, hungry for money and that are coming in. There's also a lot of people coming in who are coming more for the opportunity. They are coming in with money so that their children can get a better education, that they can get, access to things that they can't get in the countries that they're coming from.
And I can't really blame them. I mean, if we're stupid enough to open up, if we're stupid enough to open up the border and go,
so that we protect our people, not theirs. I mean, in your home, if you have children, you don't feed like your children's classmates before you're sure that your children are satisfied, right? I mean, you don't go and give it out to everybody else, and then you're not sure if you have enough left to protect your own kids and to feed your own kids. You wouldn't do that. I mean, no parent would do that. No parent in their right mind would do that. And so that's the same kind of premise. Like, why would your country give out to everybody else and not protect their own people or put their own people? That's the whole premise behind America First, right? It's not that we don't care about other people or other parts of the world. It's that you've got to, clean up your own room first.
Right. How many billions and even trillions of dollars are we giving to countries for no reason?
Yeah.
It's like we're buying everybody's love all over the world. And of course, they're all getting monopoly money anyway. It's just this close to completely collapsing because it's worthless.
Yeah.
It's only worth as much as they tell us it's worth, and it really isn't. This whole central bank thing, which I think is also another impending possibility of bringing down our nation, which they have to do to bring in their new world order, don't they? Because we're the only thing left standing against it. This is why they hate Donald Trump so much, because he has said, yep, we're not doing that on my watch.
I think that they are targeting America definitely as a primary. I think they're targeting the entire West, quite honestly, but America is definitely a focal point. The people, the so-called futurists, have written this in their document. I mean, anybody who's read Brzezinski, Kissinger, even H.G. Wells, they've all talked about this. So I think that part of the reason I use a beekeeper analogy and I say that America is kind of like a beekeeper. You know how they say if all the bees go, then the world will cease to be. And I kind of see America that way. Not to undermine any other parts of the world. There are beautiful countries all over the world, and there are beautiful people doing wonderful things all over the world. But America is very unique. The United States, in particular, is very unique in the premises and the principles of our founding documents. I think
that's it.
It's the Declaration.
That's what sets us apart.
Yeah.
It's what's always set us apart, especially
the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights in particular. We are the only country, the Declaration of Independence, that stipulated that we are endowed with inalienable rights from our Creator. There's no other founding document that codifies that in writing. And then the Bill of Rights, I mean, even the First Amendment is really not explicitly written anywhere else in the world the way that we have it. So I think that that's, and very few countries have the rights to bear arms. So I think it's the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence in particular are really a bulwark, because what they want to do is erode the free will of humanity. That is really what's at stake, because they want to push us all into, I think they need to push us into a one world religion in order to achieve this one world government. But their plan is for essentially a singularity. Ray Kurzweil has his new book. He says singularity is nearer. And guess when he thinks we're going to achieve that singularity? He says it's going to be 2045. Well, it's just a really interesting coincidence that in 2045 is when the UN 100 centennial plans for the AI World Society are in 2045, because that's the centennial of the UN. And this is where, they will have literally an AI world society where they talk about how human governments will be completely supplanted by AI governments. And I highly recommend everybody go and read it. It's based on Michael Dukakis, who is the former governor of Massachusetts. He wrote a book called Remaking the World, The Age of Global Enlightenment, which I do think is a nod to the theosophical movement that's the underpinning of the UN. And it's very much in that vein. Enlightenment is not like certainly not Scottish Enlightenment. I think they're talking more like the Enlightened One or the Illuminated One. It's falls more under that kind of premise. So,
And the Bible is called the beast, the Antichrist. Are you a woman of faith? Are you a follower of Christ Jesus? I am.
I'm not I don't necessarily subscribe to like a very specific religion, but I
Okay, all
definitely
right.
believe
I
in a
got you.
creator God. Yeah.
I just want to know where you stood. But the reason why I ask is because everything you just described about they want the one world religion, the one world government, the religion, of course, is the
It's
opioid.
Luciferian. Yes.
Is the opioid of those brainwashed masses, isn't it? Which of course is what they say about us who are followers of Christ. But what you described about what they want is in
It's Lucifer.
Scripture. It is
Yeah.
in Scripture.
Well, what they're promulgating is Luciferian, and it is predicated on Luciferian writings. The UN, their spiritual underpinnings of the UN is the writings of Alice Bailey. Alice Bailey started Lucifer Publishing in 1922. It was a little too on the nose. They didn't love the name, so they changed it in 1923 to
They didn't love the
Lucius
name.
Trust. Some people were not too pleased, so they changed it to Lucius Trust. But the writings, that she was the disciple of Madame Blavatsky, who started she was one of the founders, there were many, but they started the Theosophical Society in 1875. And Madame Blavatsky had a magazine called Lucifer Magazine. And Madame Blavatsky makes it very clear that she is a Luciferian. She said that Satan, Lucifer, is the true God and the one who illuminates them. And she
That's
says that
Freemasons. That's Freemason stuff, by the way, isn't it?
So there's a lot to indicate, and I always want to caveat, because there are Masons who are wonderful people. They have no idea what the big overarching plan is.
I have them in my family, but they're not 33rd degree.
Yeah, and I would even say even there are some people in 33rd degree who are pretty in the dark. It's really there's a reason it's an initiation. It's all about esotericism. So until you're on a need to know basis, right? I think it's all very similar to how the military, the intelligence apparatus works, and a lot of the intelligence apparatus, in my opinion, from the research I've done, is an outgrowth of the secret societies. It's a legitimized outgrowth of secret society networks, and they're funded, unfortunately, by our taxpayer dollars. However, it's very similar, right? It's compartmentalized, and oftentimes there are very, very few people who know the big picture plan. And that's very much how the secret societies operate. You get initiated into various levels, and then you have a role to play. And I can go through this is research that's been documented that explicitly stipulates this. Even the Illuminati, who was Adam Weishaupt officially formed the Illuminati, which was originally the Order of the Perfectibility, and he formulated that on May 1st of 1776. I don't think that was a coincidence that it was just before our Declaration of Independence. But he said he was a Jesuit. He was a professor of law at Ingolstadt University, and he modeled, and he says this, that he modeled the Illuminati off of the Jesuit structure. That's part of why it has the hierarchical structure. And he talks about how he uses the leverage of secrecy because it gives people a sense of clout, so that they are invested and they buy in. And this is really how a lot of the secret societies is also how the military and the intelligence apparatus works. So I don't think everybody, my whole point is I don't think everybody knows. So I don't want to incriminate everybody. But yeah, I mean, we see these symbols and the semiotics everywhere. And even, right, didn't Kamala Harris, that they had the big news blast that she got an injection of $81 million in 24 hours. And
Yeah.
just conveniently, Joe Biden got 81 million votes. And also, Joe Biden's 81 years old. Well, gee, that's a fatal number.
What? Tell me about that. Why I didn't know this. What's the significance of 81?
Well, because it's the square root of nine. Nine is the square root, right? And of course, the Pythagoreans is 9. The 3 is the square root of 9, and they see 9 as kind of like a fatal number, and 81 is like that exponentially because it's 9 squared. So
Now, anybody who's automatically thinking, "Oh, that's crazy," who really thinks that way, who gives numbers that kind of significance, those people do. Those people truly do.
they do. I mean, you can look it up in Albert McKay's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. He talks about it. He goes through kind of the various numbers. A lot of it's based on Pythagorean occultism or Rosicrucianism or
Yes,
Kabbalah.
Christianity,
Kabbalah
the
also
Bible.
has Kabbalah.
God is a
Kabbalah
God
is
of math. God is a God of science. He
gematria.
invented. I'm sorry.
Gematria. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I forget about your
Oh
hearing
no, you're
impairment.
good. Yeah.
So, by the way, does that mean you're not actually hearing me now? You're only
No.
reading my
I wear hearing aids now. I got hearing aids when I was 6 years old. So I do wear. I can hear. I don't have it gives me about 80% hearing. I still don't hear the way somebody who has perfect hearing would hear. But yes, I can hear you. It's very
That's
helpful.
awesome. I'm glad. Thank God.
Yes.
Because of that, how many more years did we get of Rush Limbaugh with the inroads they've made medically to be able to help with hearing
The
impairment?
cochlea implant. I'm not a candidate for the cochlea implant, but yes, thank goodness they were able to help.
Yeah, you got to catch it fairly early. Otherwise, I guess.
No, it's
road to
you
road.
have to be a candidate. It's a different. So for me, my cochlea is intact. That's not the issue. For me, it's nerve connection. So it's the cilia hairs in the ears. The nerve connection to them is what's not functioning. So cochlea wouldn't help me.
You're fantastic. Just things that I'd see you post and so on. I'm like, going, oh my goodness, I got to meet this woman. But you got a thing. You got a thing coming up. You have an event coming up in one of my favorite places. I got to live and work there in Nashville, Tennessee. Tell us about it.
So it's called the Cognitive Liberty Conference, and I'm super excited about this because I think that their intention is really to, as Charlotte Iserbyt, I always hold up her book, calls it the deliberate dumbing down of America. And I think that is one of their intentions. As I said, they target the West, but really, primarily, America's, United States is very much a focus because we are the beekeepers for the free will of humanity. That was my beekeeper analogy. But I think that we need to instill cognitive liberty because they want us dumbed down, brainwashed, indoctrinated, and they want us. They use tactics of trauma-based mind control constantly, and so I want to see how we can take that back and instill cognitive liberty. So we have a 2-day conference. It's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee, and this is August 16th and 17th. It is both live stream and in person. And I highly recommend if you are able to go in person that you do take advantage of this because we have an incredible lineup and the venue is truly exquisite. It's downtown Nashville on a rooftop. However, that is a private venue, so it will only be disclosed to those who purchase the tickets. You will get that sent to you. Yes, we're going to have another speaker for day 1 that is not on there, but she will be included very soon. So this is Cognitive Liberty Conference, and one of the primary focuses is on the dialectic. This is a tactic that they use in order to progress us towards the omega point. Now, without giving you a whole lesson on Hegel, the most important thing to understand is for Hegel, the omega point was the state. He believed the state was equivalent to God. And he actually believed that humans can have no freedom without complete subservience to the state. So so they use these dialectical tactics in order to progress us towards
Dialectical warfare. Is that what I was talking about earlier, where they control the language? And by the way, is that Jack Posobiec on day 2? Who is that?
No. So day 2, we have, and for those of you who are familiar with my work or who would like to see this, I have on my channel already. I've done I've done many with several of these people, but I did one episode with Dr. James Lindsay, with Jay Dyer and Stephen Conklin. And it was a fantastic episode. It's kind of a little bit of an appetizer for what this is going to be. This is going to be an expanded version of that because we have added to the roster Michael O'Fallon and Dr. John Gentry. And so this is going to be the first day is going to be on education, and we're going to really focus on.
There it is, day 1.
Day 1. So we're going to focus on the history of the education system, the history of the deliberate dumbing down of America, as Charlotte called it, how the World Core curriculum came from Robert Mueller, who he said that the future of education was going to be based on Alice Bailey and her ascended master, Joel Kuhl. And, this became Common Core in the United States. And of course, Charlotte calls it Communist Core. I think that's aptly put. So we're going to talk about the history of the education system, how they exported the Prussian model to the United States, and what the agenda is to create global citizens, the globalization of education, and what we can do to create solutions to instill true cognitive liberty, critical thinking, and independent thought and creativity in the youth. And then day 2 is going to be a focus on political and psychological dialectical warfare. And I think this is so incredibly important because this is what we're up against right now.
Dr. James Lindsay, that's who that is. It just popped up on the screen. I saw him at the People's Convention, Conference with Charlie Kirk in Detroit just about a month ago. He was amazing.
He's wonderful.
He was really amazing.
Wonderful. Yeah, he's absolutely
and I'm looking at him, I go, I know him. Why do I know him? And then it popped up there. Extraordinary. What a cool thing. So let's talk about.
They're all fantastic. They're all brilliant. I feel blessed to call them friends. Truly an honor. And this is going to be really incredible. And I think so important. So for those of you who cannot make it in person, I do recommend you take advantage because this is going to be, definitely a really incredible experience if you can make it in person. But if not, we have a live streaming option, and it's kind of a no-brainer. For one day, it's $17.76, so it's a pretty cheap rate. But if you want 2 days and get both days live streams, you'll have on-demand access for up to 2 months afterwards, and that is $25. So it's a huge discount, kind of a no-brainer. But I just liked being able to say that we're offering something for $17.76.
I know, I love that. Well done, well done on that. What is dialectical? What'd you call it again? Dialectical warfare.
Dialectical warfare. That's really what it is. It's dialectical warfare tactics, and it's applied in both areas. In education, they specifically say they're going to use Hegelian tactics. When you look into the history, they specifically say it, and you're seeing it right now.
Remember now, I'm a good old boy from Bakersfield. You're now using words that I'm really not. I hate to say, I'm really not familiar with.
That's all right. As I said, like it's I can give you a Hegelian lecture if you want. We can flesh this out. But if not, the important thing to know is these people are statists. They come from a very monism type of school of thought where everything is all connected and it's theosophical, and they're trying to reconnect to the one. And for them, the one is the state. The state is the omnipotent, the all supreme.
I've been saying that all along. They worship the government. I've been saying that for many years.
There are many schools of these, what were theosophers and the theosophical New Age movement that have now they're rebranding themselves as New Thought leaders. New Thought is basically theosophy with just a focus on mentalism. So it's a little bit more of like The Secret is more of the colloquial way to explain it. I think, and therefore I manifest everything to happen.
Right.
And there's many, the individuals don't all agree. It's as typical with anything, there's various schools of thought within this movement. But ultimately, the roads are, and I think there's even dialectics within that movement, because some of them claim that they're not they're not transhumanists. That's what they claim, although they're disciples of transhumanists. But they claim that they're not, and they think the transhumanists are crazy, but they believe that we're already in a global brain. They have more of a Jungian type of philosophy. Jung coined the collective unconscious. They believe in more of a collective conscious, that consciousness. They say that it's conscious evolution, and we have the option to co-create. This is this very Gnostic kind of view that we will co-create with God, and so we can evolve into the superorganism of humanity. And of course, Bruce Lipton, who's an evolutionary leader, says that membrane of the organism of humanity is going to be the internet. That sounds a little like the AI World Society to me. So I think it is a dialectic, because the other camp are more Kurzweilian, where they say, that we do want to merge with machines. We want an AI World Society. We want the technology. Barbara Marx Hubbard, who
because they believe they're going to live forever. They believe that their brain power and all that they are can be transferred into a machine.
Some of them do. Some of them believe that they evolve, and so therefore the physical realm doesn't matter at all, because they're going to spiritually evolve and they'll become one. They take the elements of some of the Eastern philosophies and they cherry pick, the parts that they like. But it's this idea that you'll achieve a Brahman and be one with Atman. It's kind of reminiscent of that, although I think that the Eastern philosophy, the people who subscribe to that would balk at how they've, butchered their belief systems too. So,
sister, you're a treasure. You're fantastic.
Thank you.
Man, I'm so glad I met you. I gotta have you on again real soon, but you're just extraordinary. I'm really glad to have met you. I'm glad to know you now. And
Thank you.
I hope we
Likewise.
can be friends. I hope we can be friends.
Yeah.
I miss Nashville. I'd love to go back there again. I know all the fun places to hang out and all the good restaurants to go to, having lived and worked there. And if I can make it, I sure would like to. But otherwise, you can actually attend online too, can't you? Though,
You
and
can.
if you've never been to Nashville, Tennessee, and you've never seen the amazing, great state of Tennessee, this is an opportunity for you. And it's coming up 3 weeks from now, right? So there it is again. Walk us through it.
Conference.com.
Yeah.
So I was so surprised I got the name.
Okay, go ahead. Say it again.
CognitiveLibertyConference.com. And you'll find everything there. So the front page will kind of, give you a little overview of the 2 days. We're still updating the site, but we'll get an overview of the 2 days. It is August 16th and 17th. And if you click, it'll say get your tickets, and then you'll get a breakdown of the various types of tickets that you can get. So as I said, you can get an online ticket to watch it live stream in real time. And those of you who watch the live stream will have an opportunity to submit questions if you're watching it in real time. And so you can get 1 day ticket, or you can get the 2, which is a discount for $25. The 1 day is $17.76. And then we also have the in-person ticket. Right now, there is only availability for day 2 in person, and it is limited because it's a very small private venue. But if you can, I highly recommend it. We also are seeking sponsors because, as you can imagine, this is quite the feat and undertaking to put on an event like this. So we greatly appreciate any kind of donations or supports, and we are offering for sponsors. They are, a higher ticket item, but they will join us and the speakers for dinner on the second night. So,
nice.
And that is all listed on there. So
nice. I'd love to attend there. Just media. Do you have a media tent or an area that you're going to set up?
It's way too small for that, and this is hopefully will grow. And right now, this is just me and my fiance. We're putting this together. So, but hopefully it'll grow, and that there will be media opportunities.
This is your very first event, and you got guests like that.
This is my second, but it's my first of this kind. So I did last year in June, I did something called the Cause Fest, which was massive. It was CAUSE stands for Creative Artists Uniting for the Sovereignty of Everyone. And I was in the entertainment industry. I was an actress and a producer. So I was very familiar with how agendas ideas get pushed through Hollywood, and I've done a deep dive on Tavistock, and I understand how they use art and culture to socially engineer the masses.
Oh,
And
yes.
right?
I'll tell you what, I can tell you stories about that, sister. I've been in the business my entire adult life. I can tell you all kinds of
I
stories.
can imagine. I'd love to hear them. But so, because I was very concerned about that, typically I find that people who are opposed to those agendas will, trash them and say, like, oh, you can't listen to that. It's bad. You can't watch that. It's bad. Or, it's demonic, which may be true, but what are you offering in exchange? And I just thought about myself. If I was a kid growing up right now and my parents kept saying, you can't watch this, you can't watch that, what are you offering me? And I just wanted to provide something that had good, clean fun and showed that was possible. So we had 53 acts in the course of 2 days. It was right outside of Nashville in Franklin, Tennessee. And it was a
Another great
combination
place.
of comedians, filmmakers. I'm an aerial acrobatic performer, so I did 2 aerial routines. We had a bunch of speakers and the music. So it was really an incredible event. 26 and a half hours of content in 2 days. So that would be my first big event that I did. That was that one. But this
That's
is
very impressive, especially in Franklin, because you got a lot of Richie Rich there who don't like people treading on their front lawn. So well done on that. CognitiveLibertyConference.com. CognitiveLibertyConference.com. And Courtney Turner, I just feel proud to have met you and to call you now a friend. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
Hey,
glad we connected.
you just set me up with my favorite line of saying thank you for being had. I May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God.